Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down the final leg of the 2025 FedEx Cup playoffs, the Tour Championship. And just like how there are 30 golfers that are going to be teeing it up at Eastlake this week, we are going to be breaking down this golf tournament and telling you everything you need to know in 30 minutes or less. We're going to talk about the golf course itself. Personally, I love Eastlake and going to kind of convey why I love Eastlake. And then we're going to take a look at the board and talk about some different strategy and different ways that you can attack DFS and betting this week, and kind of how the unique format of this event should definitely impact how you play DFS and how you bet this week. Personally, this week, I'm not the biggest fan of the Tour Championship event in terms of the fact that it is only 30 golfers. I am a big fan of the golf course, though. But the event itself, with there being no cut, with there only being 30 guys, it just feels a little bit like an exhibition where they're really only playing for the money, not really playing with a whole lot of stakes other than their wallets. And it just kind of feels a little hollow to me. But, that's just my personal feelings. I feel the same way about Live. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy watching it. Like, people think I hate Live. I don't hate Live. I enjoy watching Live. I enjoy some of the guys that are on Live. But the tournaments just feel a little hollow when the stakes feel a little manufactured as opposed to more organic like a regular PGA Tour event. I don't know. Am I wrong on this? Tell me in the comments on YouTube if you agree or disagree. But I just feel that it's a little bit hollow when the only stakes that are at play are financial, as opposed to, like lifelong glory for winning a major, or like a life-changing moment for somebody winning their first PGA Tour event, right? It just feels a little weird to me. But anyway, we're going to be breaking down this golf tournament, whether I like it or not. And like I said, the fact that there is only 30 players here is going to impact the way you need to attack this week. So before I get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you're listening on audio as well. The reason why I'm telling you that is because we're going to have a ton of content coming your way here in the fall. In the summer, we've kind of been only golf, but college football is ramping back up. Our season preview, as well as our week 0 DFS content for college football, is out now. And then in NFL, we are doing our preseason fantasy football coverage right now. We've talked quarterbacks, we've talked running backs. Go check that out on the channel feed. But if you want the episodes for receiver and tight end, and if you want the episodes for college football for week 1 and beyond, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you will know when those drop. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive in, and let's go ahead and start talking about Eastlake Golf Club. All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, there are not exactly a whole lot of great flyovers available for Eastlake, which is why we're showing footage from basically a simulator here on YouTube. Yeah, that's not going to impact the way that we can kind of talk about and view this golf course, right? Because Eastlake Golf Club is one of my favorite PGA Tour venues. I happen to enjoy it. I think it's a proper test of golf, and I think it is befitting of hosting a yearly PGA Tour event, right? Like, this is a golf course that is going to provide legitimate difficulty to the pros. It is going to be kind of the very similar skill set that you're looking for this week that you would look for in major championships, right? So Eastlake has hosted this event for a long, long time. It is in Atlanta, Georgia. So we are back in Bermuda country. The greens are Bermuda, the rough is Bermuda, in which I do think will impact how it plays just a little bit. But with how I said that this is like a major championship test, this is a par 70, and is it supremely long par 70. It was changed back from a par 71 to a par 70 this year. That's going to make it play automatically 4 strokes more difficult, but it's just a really long golf course for being a par 70. So what you see a ton of at Eastlake is you just see a ton of driver off the tee to get as close to the hole as possible, so that way you're not left with a whole lot of long iron approach shots, because simply put, you're just going to have to hit a lot of long approaches this week, even if you are hitting driver. And one of the worst things you can do this week is find the rough off the tee. The Bermuda rough is going to be super, super thick, super gnarly. It's going to provide a huge missed fairway penalty. You may see guys just hacking the ball out sideways of the rough this week, like you would see at like a US Open type setup, because this is going to be some of the thickest Bermuda rough that they've seen all season. So basically, the name of the game this week, and the skill set that we're looking for, is driving accuracy off the tee. Well, really, I'll say total driving off the tee, because it is an advantage to be long here, right? So total driving off the tee, as well as long iron play. Those are the 2 main skill sets that we're going to be looking for. And the green regulation percentage here is fairly low, so you are going to have to be scramble a little bit. But I feel like it's a fairly simple breakdown, that we're just looking for total driving and long iron play. And when you look at the guys that have done well here, like Xander Schauffele, like Rory McIlroy, like Scotty Scheffler, like Victor Hovland, like that's generally their skill set, right? Like total driving and long iron play is why you see guys like that continue to pop up at major championships. Now, one thing that I do think is worth noting is that you will not see a whole lot of trees here at Eastlake this year. The course has been renovated. Andrew Green, who is the same guy who renovated Oak Hill prior to the 2023 PGA Championship, has renovated this golf course. Ironically, both of the originals, both Eastlake and Oak Hill, were designed by Donald Ross. And so there's been some tree removal. The bunkers have been deepened. The green complexes have been redone. And it's just made to be like just a big test of golf because of the fact that it's a long par 70 with a legitimate missed fairway penalties and legitimately long approach shots heading into greens. Another thing that is new this year is the fact that there are going to be no starting strokes. The last few years on the PGA Tour, they've used starting strokes to kind of reward the regular season and first legs of the FedEx Cup playoffs with an advantage in order to win the grand prize. This year, everybody is starting at even par. However, if they wanted to make it a truly compelling event this year, they might want to start Scotty Scheffler like 5 over and see if he can still beat everybody, because it just feels like he's going to beat everybody if they're starting with an even playing field. But yeah, that is Eastlake. Name of the game is going to be total driving, long iron play. And then with it being Bermuda agronomy, I want to give bonus points to guys who have excelled on courses that have Bermuda rough and guys who have putted well on Bermuda greens. These are Donald Ross green complexes, so there is some character to them. There is going to take a little bit of skill to make some putts here this week at Eastlake. Now, before we go ahead and take a look at the board, let's go ahead and see how that lines up with our key stats. So yeah, pretty much what we're talking about this week: strokes gained approach, total driving, strokes gained putting on Bermuda greens and fast greens, performance in strong fields, and overall scrambling. So my comp courses this week for Bermuda are pretty straightforward. You've got kind of your quartet of gnarly southeastern golf courses: TBC Southwind, Bay Hill, Copperhead, and Quail Hollow. All of these courses are, or they tend to play pretty long. They all have Bermuda greens. Occasionally they're overseeded depending on the season for Copperhead or Quail Hollow, but they're Bermuda based. They are long. They can play difficult, and you're just typical Southeast agronomy. The other one that I would add is Colonial Country Club. That is in Texas, but it is a par 70. Also recently been renovated, plays super firm and fast, and has a legitimate missed fairway penalty as well. So that's another one that I would add in there. And if you want to add, I feel like there's a few major championship venues that you could add in there. I do think that Oak Hill is certainly a viable comp, and I think that Oakmont might actually be a decent comp as well. Those are two courses that place an emphasis on total driving, not just bomb and gouge, but can you find fairways? There's a genuine reward for finding fairways, and there's a genuine reward for being long. So I would put both of those in there as well, but I kind of just stuck with the normal rota of PGA Tour courses here for my comp courses. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then let's go ahead and take a look at the board. All right, I got a little bit out of order there. Before we take a look at the board as a whole, we got to dive down the rabbit hole, right? Now, if you are new here, when we say dive down the rabbit hole, we're referring to the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf that allows you to use all different kinds of filters and conditions in order to build out a custom model to really kind of find the skills and micro skills that you want for specific golfers on specific golf courses. It certainly helped me find specific guys this year, like Robert McIntyre last week. After a deeper look at the rabbit hole, I really liked what he was bringing. He rated above average in pretty much every skill set I was looking for. And so it's been super helpful for me. If you're looking for a golf data set, I highly recommend it. So first thing we're looking for this year or this week is total driving for the calendar year 2025. Total driving is a stat that takes into account both distance and accuracy off the tee and uses a formula to calculate who is giving you the best driver shots by those two metrics, right? So in this field, in the calendar year 2025, the top 5 are Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, Colin Morikawa, and Sung J M as the top 4. And then there's a tie for 5th between Ludwig Oberg, Keegan Bradley, Sam Burns, and Akshay Bhatia. Now, I wanted to look at strokes gained off the tee, but only at courses that are driver heavy and only at courses where there is a high rough penalty. The best in the field in those instances: Ludwig Oberg, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Chris Gotterup, Maverick McNeely. And then I wanted to look at strokes gained approach for the calendar year 2025, who are the best in the field. Scheffler, Hovland, Straka, Morikawa, and Spawn were your top 5. But when you make that super recent form and make it only the last 16 rounds, the best in the field are Scheffler, Morikawa, Rose, Hovland, and Matsuyama. I do think there is merit in looking at a shorter term sample size here this week. We talked about it last week, how sometimes for the FedEx Cup playoffs, guys can just get on heaters, right? So I do think that there's a little bit of merit in that. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained approach on long golf courses, because those are courses that tend to see the most long iron shots. Best in the field: Scheffler, Morikawa, Lowry, Hovland, Spawn. Then I want to look at proximity to the hole from 200 plus yards. Best in the field: Scheffler, Oberg, Matsuyama, Hovland, Connors. Then, like I said, I do think scrambling is going to make a little bit of an impact here this week. So I did look at strokes gained around the green for this calendar year. Best in the field, Sung J M, Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, Russell Henley, and Harry Hall. And then I want to look at scrambling from the rough this year, because most of the time when you miss the green here, it is going to be in the rough. There's not a whole lot of water beside greens. There's not a whole lot of bunkers. Like, there is bunkers, but I think the rough's of greater hazard than the bunkers are. The best in the field are Scheffler, Matsuyama, Harris English, Harry Hall, and Corey Connors. And after that, I want to look at strokes gained putting on Bermuda greens only for the last 2 years. That way we got a big old sample size. Top 5 are Harry Hall, Cameron Young, Ben Griffin, Justin Rose, and Sam Burns. If you switch it over, though, and don't worry about the grass surface, but worry about the speed, the best fast green putters in the field are Sam Burns, Harry Hall, Cameron Young, Ben Griffin, and Jacob Bridgman. Ironically, a whole lot of crossover there between the top of the Bermuda putting list and the top of the fast greens list. Next, I want to look at strokes gained tee to green on only courses that have Bermuda rough, because that is certainly a unique feature that we're going to see here this week. Best in the field, Scheffler, Morikawa, Spawn, Matsuyama, and Cameron Young. And then I wanted to look at strokes gained total with just Eastlake. Best players in their careers at Eastlake: Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, and Scotty Scheffler. When you just look at all of the comp courses that we talked about, best in the field are Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy. And then I wanted to look at par 4 average for the very last stat, because with it being a par 70, you're going to have to find a way to score on these par 4s. The best are Scheffler, Hall, Cantlay, Thomas, and Goddard. Now, when you throw all that into a custom model, no one listening to this is going to be surprised that Scotty Scheffler ranks as my number 1 golfer in the model. And I mean, who could have possibly seen that coming? What a shocker, right? It's not a shocker. I'm being sarcastic. Scotty Scheffler is the best golfer on the planet right now. And it's not even particularly really close. Like, when you look at what he did at the BMW Championship last week, he gained strokes in every single category. He just was absolutely incredible. Gained almost 17 strokes to the field, 5 on approach, 5 off the tee, almost another 5 off or around the green. Like, he's just incredible. And to me, he kind of, I think this word is strong, but I think he kind of ruins the event, right? Like, it's just such a foregone conclusion that he is going to be near the top of the leaderboard. If he's not winning, he's going to be certainly near the top of it. And it really just gives a ton of gravity to DFS and betting this week. And honestly, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I'm probably not going to bet an outright golfer this week, because I refuse to bet Scheffler at 2-1. And I have no desire to bet somebody at odds that I feel like are pretty fair, only for them to get boat raced by Scotty Scheffler. Like, if I had an outright bet on Robert McIntyre last week, I would have been like sick to my stomach. Now, if the argument against that would be like, well, just play the without Scheffler market. Well, those aren't good odds. Like, the sports books now are catching up to those markets and are aware of how much gravity Scheffler has, and they're not giving great odds for that market. The way to play it might be to go ahead and like pick who you think is going to play well and do like an exacto finish of like Scheffler 1 and insert golfer here number 2, or vice versa, and get paid out on both of those. That might be something you could do. But yeah, I'm probably not going to outright bet this week. I'm going to talk about my DFS strategy a little bit later and how that revolves around Scheffler. But obviously, Scotty Scheffler, top golfer in the field. After Scotty, number 2 in my motto is Tommy Fleetwood. Now, if you guys have been listening to me all season long, I have actually had a fairly good Fleetwood radar. The only time I was not on him that he played well was the Travelers, right? I was on him at Charles Schwab. I was on him at the Memorial where he played well. And I was on him at the FedEx St. Jude when he played pretty well. I think this is a pretty good setup for Tommy Fleetwood. When you think of Tommy Fleetwood courses, you think of courses that value accuracy over distance off the tee, where you can really separate with your iron play, particularly the long iron play. And he's generally a pretty good short game player around the green and putting. So I think that this really does set up very well for Tommy Fleetwood. And I think that it would be the most Tommy Fleetwood thing ever that, like, he never has won on the PGA Tour, and it would be the most Tommy Fleetwood thing ever to win an event that only has 30 people in it for his first win, because he only has to beat 29 other people right now. Unfortunately, one of them is Scotty Scheffler. But anyway, number 3 in my model is Collin Morikawa. I feel like I've also had a pretty good radar on Morikawa here this year. I just don't know what to make of Morikawa. I mean, he will probably make my DFS player pool, but that doesn't mean I feel good about it. Only because the ball striking has been so good through these FedEx Cup playoffs. He's gained pretty much 6 strokes per tournament in the ball striking categories in the FedEx Cup playoffs, but he's giving most of it back in the short game categories. This is a course where you can really separate with your driving accuracy, with your approach play, which are the two things he's very good at. And believe it or not, for a guy that's considered a shorter hitter, he's a very good long iron player. Those two skills are normally not, or those two skills are normally what's mutually exclusive, where longer hitters generally play better with long irons. Collin Morikawa is a great long iron player, and he's a shorter hitter off the tee. He's probably going to make my player pool in DFS, but I don't really feel great about it. The model is telling me that I should be interested in him, so I'm going to trust my model and trust what I see and roll with him. Now, Hideki Matsuyama is an example of me probably not wanting to trust my model. So we're going to talk about the DFS specifics in a second, but I don't trust his driver. He's lost strokes with the driver in 3 straight events. And this is a course where you have to be good with the driver. You can't show up here with a bad driver and expect to win. And that worries me. He does everything else, checks off all the other boxes that I want. Great long iron player, solid around the green player, good history at these types of golf courses, but I don't trust the driver. So for that reason, I am out on Matsuyama. Victor Hovland and Russell Henley are 5 and 6. I am all the way in on both of these guys this week. Both of these guys' relative weakness is around the green play, but for whatever reason, at courses with thick rough, they tend to elevate their around the green play. Think about Muirfield Village. Think about Oakmont. These two guys played very well at both those courses in situations where they were chipping from thick rough, and we already know that they're great total drivers of the golf ball. We already know that they're great approach players, long-term and short-term. So I am in on both Hovland and Henley this week. I think it's a great spot for him. Honestly, number 7 in my model is the guy that I consider the hardest guy in the field to figure out. Even more difficult than Collin Morikawa. It's Rory McIlroy. Ever since the career Grand Slam, winning the Masters, I have just been totally unable to predict how this guy's going to play. About the only time I got him right was by telling you and myself to play him at the Scottish Open. That was about the only time I got Rory right. And even last week, as bad as it looked for him, he still ended up T12. Like, I think we're at a point where Rory is probably just good with a T8 and just ready for the Ryder Cup. But if you're playing him in DFS, you don't want just a T8 out of Rory. So I don't know. He's been great at East Lake in his career. He absolutely loves this golf course, but it just doesn't feel like the vibes are off to me with Rory. Like, I just don't know what to make of him. So I'm probably going to be out on Rory. Now, rounding out my model are 3 kind of cheaper guys in DFS: Ben Griffin, Corey Connors, Patrick Cantlay. In on Griffin, in on Connors, out on Cantlay. Corey Connors, I think, is a super sneaky DFS play. He's great at golf courses that value accuracy over distance. He has been an incredible long iron player in his career. He's coming in not the best of form in the previous 2 FedEx Cup playoff events, but I have faith in his iron play, and I think that the fact that just he's a good course fit and nobody's really talking about him makes him a really sneaky play in DFS. All right, so that is going to do it for the custom model. I'm going to tinker with this all week long. And so if you would like access to the top 10 from my model every single week, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. Every single Wednesday, we post an article with our DFS core plays for DraftKings, FanDuel, the top 10 from our model, and our full write-up with it. So if you like access to that, head on over there. And also, if you do want more information from me, you can always follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. And you can also join the Fantasy Corner Discord. It's 100% free, and it is just a bunch for a lot of different sports, and golf is one of them. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then let's take a look at the board and talk strategy. All right, so purely speaking from a DFS perspective right now, Scottie Scheffler just has incredible gravity, and the question of the week is going to be whether you play Scheffler or don't. And quite frankly, I just don't see how you don't. Like, I don't see how you can fade him this week. Just think about the argument for fading Scottie in a 30-man field. If you fade Scottie, then what you would need is first off Scottie to finish outside the top 5, right? Not likely. Second, you would need to correctly predict which of the other top of the board players between like McIlroy, Oberg, Fleetwood, Henley, Hovland. Which of those are the best? Right? That's not easy. Then you would need those guys to also beat Scotty, which is not easy. And then you would have to find the right value plays down low to make the rest of the lineup work, which, oh, by the way, all the Scotty lineups are going to have them also because it's a 30-man field. So I think the simple thing to do this week, and I'm going to be doing this, is just play Scotty Scheffler. Like, just play him. Like, I'm probably not going to lock him into my lineups. Like, even last week, I had a few successful lineups that didn't have Scotty in them because they had the right combination of McIntyre and Burns and McNeely. Because I had the right combo, the exact right combo. I had a few lineups that were successful without Scotty, but I could have built that lineup with Scotty, right? And Scotty won. So I really just think the easy answer this week is just to play Scotty in most of your lineups. If you're playing single entry or three max or something like that, just play him, find a way to make it work. But I'm going to be playing Scotty Scheffler quite heavily here this week. And honestly, I don't have a problem with pairing him with even like a Ludwig or a Fleetwood or a Henley or a Hovland, simply because of the fact that the guys in the 6K range are totally viable. Like, they're not these trash players that don't deserve to be here. Like, these guys have had great seasons. They're good, right? So I really do think that this is a week where play Scotty, make the rest work out. All right. Now, we've already mentioned some of the guys near the top of the board. This is not a super long show, but I could honestly give a player take on everybody really quickly if I want to, but I don't want to do that. I want to talk about just the guys that I want to really have strong stances on. So we've already mentioned I am in on Fleetwood, Henley, and Hovland. I'm in on Ludwig, long and straight, great long iron player, good form. I am out on Thomas, don't trust his driver. I'm out on Cantlay, don't trust him at all. I am in on Burns, great firm and fast player. I'm in on Morikawa. I'm in on Spawn. Spawn, great at courses that value accuracy over distance. Very similar golf course where he just finished runner-up at TPC Southwind. In the 7K range, we already mentioned Hideki. I'm out on him, and I think he's going to be super popular. So that's going to be one of the big stands that I make this week, is going to be fading Hideki Matsuyama. We've already mentioned that I like Corey Connors. I think that McNeely and Hall are going to be supremely popular as well, but I'm more likely to play them than I am Hideki, simply because of the form that they're coming in with. Like, they're just both coming in with elite level form. I think that McNeely is actually a really solid course fit because I think he's actually turning into a pretty good long iron player. So I am in on those two guys. Then when you look at the 6K range, like I said, there's some legitimate names here, right? Harris English is going to be the chalk 6K play because he just, quite frankly, is a mispriced down here on DraftKings. He should not be down this far low in pricing. And he hasn't necessarily been great in the FedEx Cup playoffs, but he's been good enough to make it here. He's been good enough to qualify for the Ryder Cup team, and he plays his best at long golf courses for whatever reason. So even though his iron play hasn't been good in the playoffs, even though his finishes haven't been great in the playoffs, I'm in on English, and I think that a lot of other people are going to be in on him as well. So if you're playing a Scotty lineup and like you literally start off Scotty English, like you're playing a 4v4 against the rest of the field at that point. So you need to really make sure that you're going to be getting different elsewhere if you're playing those two together. And honestly, a general strategy this week, with the fact that there's 30 players and everybody's playing 6 in their lineups, means that literally the average ownership of every single player is going to be 20%. So if you just want to play the guys that, like, if you have access to ownership projections, if you just want to play the guys that are lowly owned, that's not a bad strategy. Whether they end up playing well or not, you're going to have leverage. And if you just want to play guys, like if you watch a lot of content, which I do, and you just want to play the guys that nobody's talking about, that's not a bad strategy either, because those guys are going to come in lowly owned and they're going to have leverage. And all you would need is for them to finish a few positions better than their salary to get value paid off of them. He's not listed on a salary here, but I really do like Robert McIntyre this week. So Bobby Mack has shown up at all different kinds of golf courses, but a lot of them have been par 70s. He's a really good long iron player. He's a great total driver of the ball, can really chip, can really putt. And really, we almost had a ceiling putting performance from him. Over the first 2 days, he was just on fire with the putter. If he had kept it up, he would have won the golf tournament. That's the type of guy that could beat Scheffler, is a guy that is a good long iron player and can really spike with the putter. And oh, by the way, there's a few of these guys in the 6K range, in my opinion, my favorites, aside from Harris English. Justin Rose, we just saw him win at TBC Southwind. Akshay Bhatia, who is having a very good run on the FedEx Cup playoffs. This is a guy who is primed to show up and have a good putting week because he really has not had a spike putting week in a long time, but the iron play has been on fire. The total driving has been great. I am in on Akshay. If you've been a long-time follower of the show, you know that I'm a long-term believer in his talent. I think he's a great look this week as well. Brian Harman showed up dead last in my model, but I kind of think that this is a sneaky good spot for him. If I had done a lot more short-term modeling, I probably would have been more in on Harman. He's been really good in recent weeks. He's quietly had a really good summer, and he's a guy that is from Georgia, and it would not shock me to see him have a really good week putting on Bermuda grass. Shane Lowry is also another guy in the 6K range that I love this week. Great at courses that value accuracy over distance. Great long iron player. It just had a very mediocre FedEx Cup playoffs so far, but hey, the whole point was to get here, and now that he's here, he's going to show up, he's going to show out, and I think that he's worth a really good look at DFS as well. But all right, y'all, that is our look at the field this week. Like I said, we're keeping everything under 30 minutes or less. I know I normally talk one and done at the end, but let's be honest. If your one and done's doing the Tour Championship, something's up. Because if you're doing prize money, the prize money is just absolutely disproportionate this week. And hopefully you save Scotty Scheffler if that's the case. If you're playing one and done this week, maybe you do a format that's different than prize money. I was in one that used to do strokes to par, which was actually a really unique way to do it. Then just play the best guy you have left. And if I talked about most of the field here in this episode, I give enough takes that you should be able to find somebody to play, hopefully, of the guys that you have left. If you have nobody left, well then, I'd say that's actually that could actually really be a possibility in one and done if you have nobody left, because these guys have been the 30 best players all season long. So I don't know. Surely you'd have Jacob Bergman, Ranger, Novak left. All right. Anyway, why am I talking about one and done? Nobody's playing one and done this week. Anyway, that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. If we helped you out in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that, and I really do appreciate it. If you're listening on audio, please rate and review. I cannot stress enough how much that helps me and how much I appreciate it. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because while the golf season is winding down, we're going to have a little bit of a few week lull here in golf. We're going to have plenty of NFL fantasy football content to get you ready for your drafts and help you win your leagues this year, as well as our college football content that is designed for DFS betting player props as well. So make sure you're subscribed and you can be here with us for all of that. But that is going to do it for this episode, and that is going to do it for the 2025 PGA Tour season, which is crazy. I'm probably going to have some content out for the fall swing. Depends on the timing of everything with how everything's going with college football for those weeks. But I hope to have content out for the fall swing. So make sure you come back for that. But this is the end of this PGA Tour season. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be recognized as the season of Scotty. He won 2 majors. He's won 5 events already. I strongly anticipate he's going to get to a 6th. He's the best player in the world, and it's not even close. And I think that when we look back at this season in 10 years, that's going to be kind of what we remember it for. We're now 10 years in retrospect, we look back at 2015 was the season of Jordan Spieth, right? This is going to end up being the season of Scotty when we look at it, and he's going to put that final stamp on it by winning the Tour Championship here this week at a golf course that fits him very, very well. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. So hopefully you guys got some information here on this episode that you can use to pick out some winners this week. So best of luck to you guys in your DFS contests and betting cards this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Thank you guys for being with us all PGA Tour season. And with that, I will see you guys next time.